shows you about 10 million of us today marching.
Around the world, millions of people don't want this war.
We have never gotten justice.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to TruthBlitz. I'm Park Major, and tonight we expose a scheme so sinister it threatens the very foundation of justice in America. At its center is Erik Prince, the founder of Blackwater, a man whose name is synonymous with war, profiteering, and moral decay. His latest venture is a chilling proposal to deport thousands to a brutal prison in El Salvador, a plan steeped in greed and disregard for human rights. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a calculated assault on decency, and we will uncover every detail. Erik Prince is no ordinary businessman. Born into wealth in Michigan, he leveraged his family's fortune to create Blackwater in 1997, a private military company that profited massively from America's wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Blackwater wasn't about security, it was a mercenary force, reaping over $2 billion in government contracts. In 2007, its contractors committed an atrocity in Baghdad's Nisour Square, killing 17 unarmed Iraqi civilians. The world was horrified, yet Prince evaded accountability, rebranding Blackwater as Academy to escape the stain of blood. In 2020, President Trump pardoned 4 Blackwater contractors convicted in the massacre, a move that reeks of Prince's influence. Prince's ambition knows no bounds. He relocated to the United Arab Emirates, securing over $500 million in contracts for so-called operational support. But his sights are now on America's immigration system. Through his new venture, 2USV, Prince proposes deporting thousands, potentially tens of thousands, of immigrants to El Salvador's CECOT prison, a facility notorious for torture and inhumane conditions. His plan involves designating part of this foreign prison as U.S. territory to bypass legal protections, using private planes and a deputized posse to execute mass deportations. This is not policy, it's a dystopian nightmare. The stakes are staggering. Prince's scheme, backed by his ties to President Trump and El Salvador's Nayib Bukele, threatens to privatize immigration enforcement, placing unchecked power in the hands of a mercenary. Reports indicate innocent people, including a Maryland man protected by court order, have already been ensnared, deported to a prison where survival is uncertain. This is a betrayal of American values, driven by profit and power. Tonight, we will dissect Prince's plan, its mechanics, its human toll, and the legal and moral abyss it represents. We'll expose his history of exploiting chaos and the dangerous alliance fueling this scheme. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear is a warning, a call to confront a growing threat to justice. We return after this break. This story is too critical to ignore.
It's time to flip the page and prove them wrong. It's time for rebirth. Yeah, time's up to say goodbye to all the haters, doubters, and non-believers trying to bring you down. In the blink of an eye, you'll realize that there's so much more to the book than the page you were stuck on.
Welcome back to TruthBlitz. I'm Park Major, and we're unraveling Erik Prince's chilling plan to transform deportation into a profit-driven machine. This is not about law enforcement. It's a meticulously crafted scheme to exploit human lives for billions. And it's as horrifying as it sounds. Let's examine how this operation works and why it's a legal and ethical catastrophe. Prince's company, 2USV, recently registered in Wyoming, has proposed a radical escalation of deportations to El Salvador's CECOT prison, a facility condemned by human rights organizations for its brutality. The plan is audacious. Designate a portion of CECOT as U.S. territory to sidestep constitutional protections. Then transport thousands of immigrants, labeled criminal illegal aliens, on a fleet of 100 private planes. These individuals would be detained in a U.S.-based camp holding 10,000 people before being shipped to El Salvador, where they'd face indefinite detention in conditions described as a black hole of abuse. Prince claims this targets 100,000 of the worst criminal offenders, but evidence suggests otherwise. A Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was deported to CECOT despite a court order protecting him from removal. He's not a criminal. He's a victim of a system that prioritizes expediency over justice. Reports indicate at least 288 others, including Venezuelans, have been deported without due process, their fates sealed in secrecy. This is not precision. It's a reckless dragnet. The logistics are staggering. Prince's team seeks access to government immigration databases to identify targets, bypassing judicial oversight. They propose interfering in immigration courts, pressuring judges for rapid hearings or coercing detainees into accepting deportation to avoid prison. This is a private entity acting as judge and jury, a blatant violation of federal laws like the Posse Comitatus Act, which restricts private companies from law enforcement roles. Designating a foreign prison as U.S. territory is a legal fiction, unlikely to withstand scrutiny. Yet Prince is undeterred. The financial motive is clear. The U.S. has already paid El Salvador $6 million to detain deportees, and Prince's plan could cost billions more. His previous deportation proposal, pitched in 2024, carried a $25 billion price tag, including camps, planes, and a bounty program for informants. This is a mercenary profiting from human suffering, exploiting Trump's pledge to deport 12 million people by 2026. While the White House has shown limited interest, Prince's persistence and MAGA connections make this a credible threat. This plan is a legal and moral abyss, condemned by human rights groups for violating international laws against deporting individuals to torture. CECOT's conditions, overcrowding, violence, starvation, are well documented, yet Prince sees opportunity where others see horror. Stay with us as we explore his history of exploiting chaos. We'll return after this break. The truth demands your attention.
Finally, you will feel free to live a life you love living instead of the life you think other people want you to live. Remember, you are the highest authority when it comes to knowing what you want and what you love. So stop trading yourself for the approval from others.
Welcome back to TruthBlitz. I'm Park Major, and we're exposing Erik Prince's deportation scheme to El Salvador, a plan that fits seamlessly into his decades-long pattern of profiting from chaos. This is not a one-off. It's the latest chapter in a career defined by bloodshed, lawlessness, and greed. Let's examine Prince's history and why his current proposal is a terrifying extension of his mercenary empire. Erik Prince founded Blackwater in 1997, using his family's wealth to build a private military force in North Carolina's Great Dismal Swamp. After 9/11, Blackwater became a Pentagon favorite, securing $2 billion in contracts for operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. But its legacy is one of violence. In 2006, Blackwater contractors held U.S. soldiers at gunpoint in Iraq. In 2007, they massacred 17 unarmed civilians in Nisour Square, an act of brutality that shocked the world. Iraq expelled Blackwater in 2009, costing Prince a $1 billion contract, but he rebranded the company as Academy, continuing his operations with impunity. Prince's misdeeds extend far beyond Iraq. He's been linked to arms trafficking, training CIA hit squads, and plotting to arm Libyan warlords in violation of a UN embargo, an act currently under investigation in Austria. In 2019, he proposed a private army to overthrow Venezuela's government. In 2020, he attempted to acquire Ukraine's military assets for a mercenary force. Each scheme reveals a man who thrives on instability, turning crises into cash. The El Salvador deportation plan is quintessential Prince. Partnering with Nayib Bukele, El Salvador's authoritarian president, he aims to turn CECOT, a prison holding 40,000 people, many without charges, into America's deportation hub. Human rights groups describe CECOT as a site of torture, with inmates facing beatings, starvation, and isolation. Prince toured the facility in August 2024, not to reform it, but to exploit it. His plan to deport thousands, including potentially U.S. citizens, mirrors his disregard for human rights. Prince's ties to Trump amplify the danger. A longtime MAGA ally, he's worked with figures like Steve Bannon and secured pardons for Blackwater contractors in 2020. His sister, Betsy DeVos, served in Trump's cabinet, cementing his access to power. This deportation scheme leverages Trump's promise of mass deportations, turning a political agenda into a private sector windfall. The 2USV proposal is a blueprint for privatizing immigration enforcement, placing a mercenary above the law. This is not about security, it's about power. Prince's history shows he'll stop at nothing to profit, even if it means trampling human rights. Stay with us as we confront the human cost of this plan and its devastating consequences. We return after this break to reveal the human toll of Prince's scheme.
Ladies and gentlemen, weirdos and geeks, please repeat after me. I don't give a fuck.
Welcome back to TruthBlitz. I'm Park Major, and tonight we're exposing the human cost of Erik Prince's deportation scheme to El Salvador, a plan that sacrifices lives for profit. This is not a policy, it's a moral atrocity, and the stories of its victims are a damning indictment of Prince's greed. Let's confront the human suffering at the heart of this nightmare. Consider Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, a Maryland resident deported to El Salvador's CECOT prison, despite a federal court order protecting him from removal. Kilmar, a father with no criminal record, fled gang violence in 2011 and was granted legal protection in 2019. Yet in March 2025, he was detained by ICE, shipped to CECOT, and abandoned in a facility where survival is a daily struggle. His autistic son is left without a father, clinging to memories of a life torn apart. Kilmar is not alone. At least 288 others, including Venezuelans, have been deported without due process, their fates obscured by secrecy. CECOT is a humanitarian disaster. Built by Nayib Bukele to house 40,000 prisoners, it's a fortress of cruelty with reports of beatings, starvation, and deaths from neglect. Inmates are denied contact with families or lawyers, trapped in a system designed to break them. Human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch, have condemned CECOT as a violation of international law. Yet Prince sees it as a business opportunity. His plan to send thousands more to this prison, potentially including denaturalized U.S. citizens, is a deliberate embrace of suffering. The legal implications are dire. International law prohibits deportations to places where individuals face torture or inhumane treatment. CECOT's conditions clearly violate these standards, yet Prince's proposal to designate part of the prison as U.S. territory is a cynical attempt to evade accountability. This is not justice, it's a mockery of the rule of law. The U.S. has already paid El Salvador $6 million to detain deportees, and Prince's 2USV seeks billions more, funded by taxpayers to fuel a mercenaries' empire. Prince's defenders claim this targets dangerous criminals, but the evidence tells a different story. Innocent people are being swept up, their lives destroyed by a system that prioritizes profit over humanity. A federal judge in Texas and the Supreme Court have ordered the return of wrongfully deported individuals, yet the Trump administration and Bukele resist compliance. This defiance underscores the plan's lawlessness. This is a moral and legal travesty, enabled by Prince's history of exploiting power. Stay with us as we outline the stakes and issue a call to action to stop this nightmare. We return after this break with a plan to fight back. The truth demands action. Welcome back to TruthBlitz. I'm Park Major, and we've exposed Erik Prince's chilling deportation scheme to El Salvador, a plan that threatens to reshape America's moral and legal landscape. The stakes are immense, and the time to act is now. In this final segment, we outline what's at risk and how you can fight to stop this mercenary-driven catastrophe. If Prince's plan succeeds, a private company will control America's immigration enforcement, wielding unchecked power to detain and deport thousands. El Salvador's CECOT prison, a documented site of torture and abuse, will become America's dumping ground, with innocent people like Kilmar Abrigo Garcia caught in its grip. Reports confirm at least 288 deportees are already trapped there, many without due process. Prince's vision extends further, potentially targeting U.S. citizens for denaturalization and deportation, a chilling erosion of constitutional rights. The broader implications are terrifying. Privatizing deportation sets a precedent for outsourcing law enforcement, placing mercenaries above democratic accountability. Prince's history, arms trafficking, coup plots, and massacres, shows he's unfit to wield such power. His 2 USV proposal, backed by a $25 billion blueprint, seeks to profit from human suffering, funded by taxpayers. This is not about security. It's a power grab that threatens the rule of law. Resistance is growing. Federal courts, including a Texas judge and the Supreme Court, have ordered the return of wrongfully deported individuals. Human rights groups like the ACLU and Christosel are filing lawsuits with the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights. Senator Chris Van Hollen has publicly condemned the treatment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, visiting El Salvador to demand answers. Yet Prince, Trump, and Bukele remain defiant, banking on public apathy to push forward. You can change that. First, contact your elected officials, senators, representatives, and the White House. Demand they reject Prince's plan and investigate his ties to the administration. Second, support organizations like the ACLU and Human Rights Watch, which are fighting to protect deportees and expose CECOT's abuses. Third, raise awareness. Share this story with your community, workplace, and online. The truth is our strongest weapon against Prince's ambition. This is a defining moment. Erik Prince is betting on silence, counting on his wealth and connections to prevail. But the American people have the power to stop him. His scheme is a betrayal of justice, a mercenary's attempt to profit from misery. We must act, because if we allow this to continue, the consequences will haunt us for generations. That's all for Truth Blitz. I'm Park Major, urging you to stand up and fight for justice. We'll return next week to expose more threats to our values. Until then, stay vigilant. Good night and God bless.
Now start claiming your time and your mental well-being by saying no more. No more. Say it loudly and proudly. In other words, fuck you.